Hello and welcome to another pretty good game in voiceover video. We remember how much you liked the Destiny 2 one.
They loved that one.
So me and Mike are back again. We're going to be talking about Divinity Original Sin 2 this time. It's the latest game from Larian Studios and we've been playing it extensively over the past week, haven't we, Mike?
Yes, all for the purposes of research, of course. That's a lie, because I totally forgot I should have been recording footage halfway through it, because that's how much fun I was having playing it.
Yeah, we had a nice time. So we played it solo and we jumped into a campaign mode together. The fruits of our labour you will see on the screen as we talk about it. Let me give you a little bit of background about Divinity Original Sin 2. I mean, even the name sounds complicated. What is it?
It's a lot of work.
Yeah, it gets worse. It gets more complicated. It's the latest game from Larian Studios. It's a massive game, so that's why a lot of people are only covering it this week, including us. I mean,
there's a lot of buzz around it. A lot of people are talking about it, and it's completely specific to the PC audience, I guess. And it's a very specific set of gamers who are going to play and enjoy this. And if you're outside of that bubble, you'll be asking, what the hell is this game, and why is everyone raving about it? And I guess there's a question that is worth addressing, because it's a bloody good game.
Yeah, it's been getting quite a lot of mainstream heads turning. Like you're saying, it's a niche thing, but people are saying, hang on a minute, what's this game? One of the main appeals for the average person, the average PC player, is it's a big RPG, you know, like Pillars of Eternity or Baldur's Gate and all that, which revolve around parties that you can actually play co-op.
Yeah. Yeah, the multiplayer is pretty special in it. And I'll be honest, like when we both jumped into it, at first, like what we did at first was Jake jumped into my game halfway through. He's a little bit further ahead than I was, so he jumped in and helped me out. And then what happens is he takes over one of my party members, and I can assign him another party member to control as well. And that was all right. That was quite fun. But then, you know, it kind of felt like the half the experience almost. And then we jumped in and created these two characters that you can see on the screen right now. I was that majestic looking wizard there with what can only be described as a fabulous gown.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no other word for it. Yeah, he's a mage, so I guess he's got to wear that kind of stuff, I suppose. And Jake's the guy with a bucket on his head. Yeah,
the lizards are known for keeping slaves in this world, so
it's completely accidental.
You can make your own assumptions. Yeah, it's just the character that I was playing that happened to be. You know, one that had exciting armor from the get-go. I mean, in terms of the campaign itself, you can start off like your own characters. You can invent your own characters entirely. You can also pick pre-made characters with their own origin stories and things like that. We jumped into the co-op campaign as our own characters. So, like you just seen here, Mike's picked a gigantic lizard.
His name is Gizzard, the lizard wizard.
That's correct. I picked this elf guy called Jake, which is my name. And he's a cannibal with the ability to polymorph. He can turn enemies into chickens, he can turn his arm into a tentacle, all sorts of good stuff.
One thing we should know about that is we were both kind of playing outside of our comfort zones there, because I always play like a tanky kind of character. I love being up in people's faces. That's how I play everything. That's how I play like Destiny and stuff. I like being a bit like abrasive character that's always in the mix. And then Jake, you're kind of more of a roguey kind of dude, right? You like stealing and that sort of shit.
I do like stealing. In fact, I couldn't help that even on our playthrough here.
Well, yeah.
Some footage here of a woman saying to Mike, oh, life's hard.
Yeah, my kids died.
My kids died.
And you keep your friends close, though, you hear me? That's what she was saying to me while Jake was
stealing from her pockets. And it was a very useful spell in my defence that Mike needed.
It was necessary for the freedom of the world or something.
Ironically, it was to heal wounds, which she's not. When she found out she was robbed, it caused a few new ones. She, in fact, then goes on to say, "I've been robbed," and she looks to Mike for answers. She searches him.
Yeah, but then I've already used the spellbook, so that's been kind of.
So you've learnt his skill and then chucked the evidence away.
And then she's kind of apologised for wasting my time because I didn't steal it, did I?
Yeah, exactly. Where's the guy with the book cut on his head? Nowhere to be seen. So this kind of touches on a certain aspect of the game that is very open, and that's the skill classes and things like that. So like I said, I stole something, but it was for Mike to use, not for me, because it's a wizard ability, it's a mage ability, healing, and that just taps into one of the things that you can do in this game. You learn skills, right? You can mix and match as much as you want. You can learn water abilities, fire abilities, you can raise the dead and things like that. This game's very open for a lot of reasons, but the skill sets is one of the most enjoyable ones.
Flexibility, isn't it? But you're totally right, though. I mean, the fact that it's so open is the main thing. I think that is why people love it so much, because it's like a role player's game. You can just go in there and do whatever you want and be whoever you want and do what you want. And like the game is built to make things happen for you. So it's not like preset things. It's not like Mass Effect role-playing or even something like Fable or something that's got like this really clear and obvious, be who you want to be kind of, marketing stuff around it. This is like anything that you can apply logic to will probably work in the game, and what it'll do is give you a set of problems and no indication as to how to solve them. You've got to use your own initiative. You've got to speak to people, and they will give you they will give you hints and stuff, because that's how the world works in real life. People will just give you bits of knowledge, and that comes right through in like the quest log, which is one of my favorite things about the game. It's presented to you as a diary of information that you've got, rather than here is a map marker, go to that map marker and do this thing. It just tells you, you spoke to this person, they said there might be something buried under a tree somewhere. And so then you start digging around under trees and stuff, and you try to narrow down which tree it was, for example. That's not an actual quest, but that's kind of how it's built, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, the quests are not, they don't really involve things like go and fetch me 10 sticks and then I'll give you a sword that's absolutely shitter than the one you've got.
If it is, it's only like you might want this in the future because it's a pretty cool thing. I've heard about this cool pair of gloves that's somewhere that might be awesome.
Yeah, a lot of it is like that. It gives you an incentive to go and search it yourself. I mean, in terms of the open function of it, the very beginning challenge you face with is you're on some sort of fortified island, right? And you have to get out of this fort. How do you want to do that? Well, any way you see fit. Think about it logically. How would you escape from a castle? If you were a wizard, could I teleport out of there? Yeah. Could I go through the sewers maybe? Yeah.
If you run through that same area 5 times, you could do it 5 different ways.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have to apply like this video game logic where there's a door that's locked and you think, right, which boss do I have to get to get the key? It doesn't hold your hand. And these are the things that a lot of people that watch our videos complain about. Hand-holding, patronising gameplay. Things are just too easy these days. This game is brutally hard.
I mean, what you just saw there on the screen is something was on fire, and then you put like oil or whatever, an elemental effect on top of it, and suddenly there's fire everywhere. That's another part of where that kind of logic comes through in the gameplay, is the combat, because much like the first one, although it has been refined, I'm sure Jake will explain it better in a minute, it's built around logic. If there's a puddle of water, you can freeze it, or you can electrify it, or you can vaporize it, it becomes a cloud, and then that cloud you can electrify, and then there's a cloud of electricity in the air instead. And all these elemental effects are crucial to winning games, winning battles, and there's things dotted around each kind of battle area, I guess, like barrels and just environmental effects that are actually things that you need to worry about and think about when you're strategizing. It's an incredibly tactically deep game, and speaking to someone who's a huge fan of XCOM, it's exactly that kind of gameplay, that kind of tactically planning ahead, like a game of chess or something. It's insanely detailed, and it applies that logic to it, which is just, can I set that puddle of poison on fire? Yes, you can. It's a puddle of poison and it'll erupt in flames. It's great.
There's things like that make the difference in most games. It doesn't matter if you're killing a goblin in an icy mountain, in a desert, a swamp, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, you're just bashing at a goblin, aren't you?
Yeah, who cares about the background? This is super important. I mean, with the first Divinity Original Sin, I had 2 characters that I controlled, and one of them was a caster. So first thing I did every game was I set everyone to sleep, and then they would all miss their turn, and then I'd use the rest of my party to slaughter them. This game kind of stops you doing that with the armor system, which you can see above the health bars there. There's magic armor and there's physical armor. You have to knock these armors down before you can apply like long-lasting effects on people, like knocking them down or causing them to bleed. You can rupture people's tendons, so when they move, it hurts them, or atrophy, so when they're trying to attack you, they damage themselves. You can't apply any of those effects until the armor's down. This, you have to kind of really tactfully figure out, this guy's got limited magic armor, so I'll use spells on this one.
Exactly. It's scalable as well, isn't it? I mean, there is a mode where it's like a little bit, easier. You can just kind of explore, and the battle is kind of scaled, so it's a lot more friendly. But even that, I've heard, can be quite it doesn't completely hold your hand, and it doesn't, you still have to apply some thought to it. And it goes right up to kind of rock hard levels of having to at least have played through the game a couple of times before you can take on the hardest difficulty.
The first game I'd completed on tactician mode, which is a really challenging mode for battles, and I had to use a little bit of environmental effects and things like that. I think I've got a lot of practice ahead of me before I can take on tactician mode in this game. And to be honest, right now it seems impossible. Like I have no motivation to try it because it seems too hard.
It's still difficult. It's not like there's power creep, right? So you feel like you have all these abilities and all these things that you can do, but the skill comes in using those at the right time and the right places and the right, you know, environments and situations. Like, it's, even though you're overloaded with powerful abilities, it's not ever easy because the enemy is difficult, the enemy has abilities, and you need to know when to use them. That armor thing is a real thing that you need to think about because it just stops all kinds of effects.
Exactly.
It's a very cleverly built system all around.
Yeah, to stop the game becoming repetitive, they introduced skills. So like you're saying, it ends up, rather than making yourself feel overpowered, you feel like I've got enough new tricks in my book to try and combat these tough enemies. And the combat system is one of the richest and deepest I've seen in any RPG. And to talk about the combat this much, I feel like it's a disservice to the rest of the game because it's like every single element of this game has got so much depth. And like the first act was the area that was available for early access, so people had a year to explore that. And I thought maybe that's going to be a good chunk of the game, but no, the game looks massive. Lots of people have been spending about 30 hours just in the first area, and that's the length for most AAA games these days.
Yeah.
The music has changed immensely in each new area I've been in, and it's something that's really standing out a lot. So like every little detail down to the nooks and crannies of speaking to animals. It's an optional thing on this game. You can teach yourself a perk to speak to animals. You don't need to do that, but I'm, for example, right now speaking to a dog. Again, only optional, but they still wrote every single thing. It's all voice acted, every line. I did actually, in terms of the dialogue itself and the quests and stories, a lot of these games like Pillars of Eternity, Baldur's Gate and all that, they're super high fantasy RPGs where you get really powerful and they take on quite a dark tone and it's all super serious. This one manages to sneak a lot of humour in, and it's a funny game. It's made me laugh out loud. Really is. And I found myself going, it reminds me of Fable 1. And there's something we've mentioned before, haven't we, quite a few times.
It definitely, I mean, you feel like you could put the Fable soundtrack over some of this and it'd fit right in. I mean, the kind of humour and stuff is right there. Some of the dialogue is really well written, which is quite unusual, to be honest, for me to think that in a game like this. I think as far as criticisms go for the game, so far is getting pretty overwhelmingly positive stuff on reaction online. The reviews have been really high. I mean, the highest I've seen is 9.75 or something.
From Hardcore Gamer gave it a 10. On Metacritic right now it's sitting at 95.
So it is really high. But I mean, as far as criticisms go, if you look at this, the problem I had with the first game was that it's so open, right? So if you're not on board and not fully understanding what this game is, you probably won't really appreciate what is so great about it. You'll be intimidated by it, in fact. And in the first game, I found myself kind of, every avenue I went down, I was getting destroyed because there was only one way you could go down. That was a huge criticism from the first game, but I feel like they've streamlined that really well this time around, and they've just made me feel welcome in the world while also just letting me play around, and I've not felt like, oh God, I shouldn't be fighting these enemies yet. I always feel like I could scrape through every battle, you know what I mean?
The first game's major criticisms lie in the first act of the game where you're you're tasked with solving quite an inane and boring murder. And then, you're kind of talking to all these people and you have to read all the dialogue. And you could be talking to a little bit more people than you feel comfortable with because it might be important to the story. It's as simple as escape this place that you're in. You could do the whole thing about talking to anyone. Figure it all out yourself. So you don't feel like bogged down in a story that you're already not invested in. You're invested in yourself, and the story is you need to get out. So it's like, it's a masterclass in that. It's incredibly hard for me to talk about it from an unbiased point of view because I was such a big fan of the first one, and I was simultaneously loving the idea of talking about this game, but at the same time it's really hard for me to think of any criticisms of the game so far. I can't decide if that's because the game is that good or I am that biased and I've just wanted more of Divinity and it's managed to do that and better.
That's what the big question is, though. I think, like, you're saying that you're biased about it and stuff like that, and you don't because you love the first one. I get that. If you're excited for it, you're gonna feel excited during the launch week and stuff.
I feel it's worth saying on video.
Totally, right. But why? Can you answer why do you think this one has been so popular compared to the first one? Because even you said you're surprised yourself. Like you weren't expecting this level of like conversation online, and the fact that here's a big stat for me that it was the 4th most played game on Steam for a little while, which is like a record for a CRPG like this, which is an old school kind of RPG.
It's smashed.
Why? What's the big deal?
I got a very good way of introducing all of its features in a very palatable way. So by the time you're 2 hours in, even though you've still got a lot to learn, you don't feel overwhelmed. They've really worked with listening to the fans, which is like literally what every game developer should be doing. And now we're seeing this level of hype. The theory I've got, and I'll keep this very brief, and if anyone's listened to the video this far and you're probably wondering why haven't I brought this up, Divinity Original Sin has got this thing that only Neverwinter Nights had. You can make your own campaign. You can make your own pen and paper campaign with a game master mode, and you can run campaigns. You can even run Dungeons and Dragons campaigns in this. Lost Mines of Phandalva. Could it be that a lot of these sales are like D&D fans and pen and paper RPG fans that are like more creative, they're more interested in creating their own game, and this is giving you a tool set? Perhaps it could be that. It's got a huge following with the D&D crowd.
People who are in on it kind of knew it would be a great game, and it's had these really strong reviews now and really high player counts that reflect that. Now they're looking at bringing it to other platforms, like they said. If it's a success, we'll bring it to Mac, maybe we'll bring it to consoles, who knows. So
Divinity Original Sin 2, is it the game of the year? Who knows? I think so.
Okay, so Divinity Original Sin 2 is out right now on PC. Are you playing it? What do you think about it? Let us know down in the comments. Remember to like the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this every single day. There should be another video on your screens right now if you want to watch that, and a link to Patreon if you want to support the channel. See you next time.